So welcome here to my YouTube channel. I'm Simone Bortolotti, and in today's video we are gonna talk about the personalization and customization of Fuji Camera. Since I've been using a Fuji camera for like 4 years now. Firstly, the Fuji X-S10. Now at the moment I'm using the Fuji X-A2. But I've never actually personalized my camera. I've always used it as it was out of the box, and in the last few days I've had a sort of a pause from the exams at university, and so I'm just here on holiday in Augsburg in Germany. And so I want to show you how I took these few days to personalize and work on my camera, just to create some custom settings that work for what I use the camera, so both on photos and on videos. So the first thing we are going to talk about are the function settings. So basically on the camera you can take a few buttons which are just customizable, and you just assign a particular action to that single button. For example, on my camera I've decided to use all the 7 customizable buttons, even though maybe sometimes you don't need to use every single button while you are preparing your shoot. Consider that these buttons are not something that I need to use every single time. The first button that I've set up on the camera was the one for the film simulation. In fact, Fuji cameras are in general known for their amazing film simulation. So for example, when you're preparing your camera to take some photos during a particular scenario, you need to decide which film simulation you're gonna take, and so having a button dedicated only to that action is just perfect, so that I can just personalize and decide how my JPEG file will look into the photo in just a few seconds. The second one is the one for the focus mode. In fact, in my case I've used 3 different lenses. This one, which is the 16-80mm, then autofocus lens, and so with the autofocus lens I need to have the autofocus on the camera. But with my 2 other lenses, which are manual, the series 24mm, which I used mainly for videos at the studio, or even the Pocket Dispo, which we'll see in a moment, which is a really great vintage lens. The review is gonna come soon because I'm really enjoying using that lens. And in those 2 cases I need to have the manual focus on the camera, and sometimes even all the manual controls for the focus. So I can just control the focus mode in just a few seconds, so that's really amazing and really quick to set up the camera depending on the lens that I'm using. The third important button is the FN1 for the image stabilization, as I said before, and even this button is extremely important, especially usually in videos. When for example I'm putting my camera on a tripod, like in this moment I don't need actually the image stabilization because the camera is still, but if for example I just stand up, I can just activate the image stabilization in just one click, and this is really amazing and better than just going on the settings and trying to find out where the image stabilization is. So this is really a good step up, and I would say that these 3 are usually the things that I need most, because there are actually other 4 buttons, one for the performance mode, one other is for the digital zoom. For example, it's useful when you're taking some photos and you want to zoom in and use all the pixels of your sensor to just get a little bit of a cropped image, but I don't use it much. I just prefer to maybe do this in the edit. And the other things are the zebra setting, and the final one is the face detection. And the second type of function settings on the camera are on the screen, so these are not just some buttons but are usually some gestures and swipes on the screen. But I remember that this was the only thing that I turned off when I got my camera, because it's just something pretty annoying to have your camera just touch the screen and maybe the camera starts recording or takes a photo. So this was the only thing that I turned off just when I got the camera and when I started using the camera. But apart from the customizable buttons on the Fujifilm, there are even the custom settings, which are a sort of a group of settings that you can decide for a particular scenario in photos and videos. And I've always seen on the dials the C1, C2 till C7, but actually I've never, and I mean never, used one of those. And so in the last days I've tried to find out a way to customize and set my camera for a few different scenarios, both on photos and on video. The first custom setting that I've done is the C1, and it's for the photos, in particular when I'm shooting the thumbnails for the YouTube videos. For example, the frame is not 2:3 but is 16:9, and even there are a few more changes. For example, I said the RAW plus JPEG. Another few things that I've done for the JPEG especially is that when I want to take a photo for the thumbnails, which is just almost ready out of the camera, I just boosted a bit the contrast, the colors, the lights, just to get a little bit more defined and sort of a final and ready image to be posted. Instead, for the film emulation, I've decided to choose the Pro Negative Standard, which is a bit flat but is perfect when I just want to give a little few edits on the image, on the JPEG in particular, but if I want even the RAW file when I need it. And the final thing that I've done is the manual focus. So I've set this thing to the manual focus because usually I used to shoot the thumbnails with the series 24mm, which is a manual lens, and so I need to control the focus. Now, going on the C2 custom setting, this one is made specifically for this lens, the Pocket Dispo, and in this case this one is a sort of a vintage lens, and the few things that I've done are to just disable completely the RAW file because I don't need it for this type of lens, which is pretty chill and pretty easy to use. And the other few things that I've done are to boost a bit the colors, put a bit the contrast, the lights, everything to get just the perfect vintage image straight after the camera, because usually with this lens I don't want to do any particular edit in post-production. And in fact, even for example, as I said, I just disabled the RAW file. And the last thing that I've done for this particular lens is to set the manual focus, but apart from this I just disable completely all the assistance for the manual focus, just because with this lens you don't have the possibility to control the focus, and so I just left all the workflow completely ready and pretty easy to be used. The C3 custom setting instead is made for a more sort of a normal use when I want to take both the RAW files, for example, when I'm shooting with the 1680mm lens. But apart from the RAW file, I even want with this custom setting to have a JPEG file with a sort of a vintage look, and so I try to boost up a bit, even for example with the film emulation, with the film simulation, I try to boost up a bit this vintage look into the photo so that I have both the RAW file that can be edited easily in post-production, but even a JPEG file which has this vintage look in just a few seconds without any particular edit at all. For the videos instead I've assigned the C6 and the C7, and in these cases these two things, custom settings, are pretty similar because in general I used to shoot videos or in the studio, for example in my normal YouTube spoken videos, and in these cases I just need the manual focus, always the 4K 30fps HQ with the f-log2, because since I've done the video with Dehancer I've been using usually the f-log2. Even in this case I'm recording f-log2 and editing and color grading the video with Dehancer, and so this is my base setting for the videos with the manual focus, obviously in the studio, because I just use the 24mm lens from series. But when I'm outside, for example in this case, and I need maybe a bit of more flexibility in the videos, I just set up the autofocus, pretty easy, pretty simple, and so the settings in general are extremely similar. And so at the moment those were all the changes that I've done on my Fuji camera, and if you have any sort of suggestion just let me know, because maybe you have noticed that for example the C4 and the C5 custom settings I just haven't decided yet what to assign them for, maybe for videos, maybe for photos, just maybe I can create a particular film simulation. I just have to decide, and so if you have any sort of suggestion, something that you use for example with your camera, something that can be useful sometime, just let me know. And so I would say that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and even if you want, subscribe. And so that's all for this one. I will see you guys in the next video. See you soon. Bye.